Hello everyone, we are from Class 1 IR Group 3. We'll present about citizenship, constitution, and sovereignty in the introduction to politics. And our lecturer is Ma'am Nino. Okay, so this is our members. There are Andika, Alvianus, Haganta, Meliala. I am Firdaliya Putri Aprilliany. And Lourencia and Salsa Bila Putri Nurila. The contents that we will discuss are citizenship, constitution, and sovereignty. Citizenship. Citizenship is a member or group of people who are in a group of political units, especially the state that carries the right to participate in existing political activities. According to the law, citizenship is everything related to the state, while a citizen is a resident in a country. So citizenship and citizen are different, right? Characteristic of citizenship. First, we need to have a good understanding of the history and purpose of the country. Second, we need to participate in the progress of the nation. We, as development agents, are the nation's successors. So we have the roles and responsibilities in efforts to launch or carry out various kinds of development in various fields, both national development and regional development. One of our simple ways to participate in advancing the nation is by participating in the democratic process. Third is work for the country. One of the efforts to work for the country is to introduce Indonesian's product and indigenous culture to foreigners. The principle of citizenship. The principle of citizenship is the legal basis for the citizenship of a country. The principle of citizenship is divided into two, which is the first is principle of ius soli, and the second is the principle of ius sanguinis. The principle of ius soli is the principle that determines citizenship based on the place of birth. For example, is when a person is born in country A, while his or her parents are citizens of country B, this means that the person will become a citizen of country A. According to the principle of ius soli, the citizenship of her parents The citizenship of the parents does not affect the nationality of the child, because it follows the place of his or her birth. Meanwhile, the principle of ius sanguinis is the principle that determines citizenship by descent. For example, if a person is born in country A and his parents are if a person is born in country A and his or her parents are citizens of country B, then he or she is a citizen of country B.
I will explain about constitution. Constitution is a or set of regulation whether written or unwritten, arising in the practice of administering state government. Every country has its own constitution and how to organize its own country. This constitution is important for every country to have. Number two, purpose. Purpose providing restriction and supervision of political power in the country. So, here the purpose of being given limits and supervision is so that officials who will government seats cannot be arbitrary in their positions, and if they violate they will be subject to appropriate sanctification. Number three, there are three values of the Constitution itself: one, normative values; two, nominal values; and three, semantic value. Normative value is the official constitution in the country is not only valid in the legal sense but can also be used in social life. 2. Nominal value is a constitution that according to law remains in force. 3. Semantic values is a constitution that only applies to the interests of the rulers. Number 4. Type of constitution. Here are two types of constitution in Indonesia. Number 2, written and unwritten constitution. Written constitution is a set of main rules in the country in Indonesia, including 1945 constitution. This is the most common and often used in Indonesia. Number 2, RIS Constitution. Number 3, Provisional Constitution. And number 4, the 1945 Constitution as a result of the amendments. Number 2, Unwritten Constitution. Decisions in the MPR are taken and decided based on deliberate and consensus. Number 2, President's speech at the plenary session of the DPR every August 16, and the President's speech before the MPR conducts a session. The President as a head of state has prepared materials for the upcoming General Assembly of the MPR.
So, here I will tell you about the definition, the nature, and the types of sovereignty. So, let's start with the definition of sovereignty. The definition of sovereignty is an exclusive right to control an area of government, society, or over oneself. This means that sovereignty is a power that are given to us and our society so we can handle, we can control, we can rule, and we can manage our own territorial. We can do anything what we want in our own territorial because we have the sovereignty. And there are adherents in two theories of the sovereignty, namely based on God, on a gift from God or society. In constitutional law or international law, the concept of sovereignty is related to a government that has full control over its domestic affairs within its territorial or geographical boundaries, and in some contexts related to various organizations or institutions that have their own legal jurisdiction. Okay, let's move to the nature of sovereignty. So, sovereignty, according to John Bodin, is the highest power to make laws in a country, which has 4 characteristics. So, the first characteristic of sovereignty is permanent. This means that sovereignty remains as long as the country itself. The sovereignty will be always inside the country. And sovereignty is the most or the highest power inside the country. So, the second characteristic is original. This means that sovereignty does not come from another higher power, because sovereignty is the highest power in the country. The third characteristic is round, meaning that sovereignty cannot be divided and is the only one supreme power in the country. The fourth characteristic is unlimited. This means that there is no limiting sovereignty, because if there is a limit in sovereignty, it will eliminate the nature of sovereignty, which means that we as the society cannot have control of our land. So that is not the characteristic of sovereignty. Sovereignty is the highest power in every country. Sovereignty does not allow competition. Sovereignty knows no boundaries, because limiting sovereignty that there is higher sovereignty. Sovereignty is complete and perfect because no human or organization is exempt from sovereign power. Okay, let's move with the types of sovereignty. According to Jean Bodin, there are two types of sovereignty, namely, first, sovereignty within or internal sovereignty. This means that sovereignty is the highest power in the state to regulate its function. The government has the right to regulate all the interests of the power and all of the people through various state institutions and other instruments, without interference from other countries. So this means that one state has their own rules and regulation, so they can manage and they can control everything inside their country without interference from outside of the state, outside of the country, because they have their own control and they have their own power. So the next types is the sovereignty to the outside or external sovereignty. This means that the highest power within the state to establish relation with other countries and defend their territorial from various external threats. The state has the right to establish relation or cooperation with other countries for its national interest. So this means that we have the power. So every threat from outside, we have to defend our territorial, because this territorial or this land is ours. So we have to defend, because we don't want everybody to rule our land. So we have to protect it. And that is the types of sovereignty.
Sovereignty according to the 1945 Constitution. The first, sovereignty according to the 1945 Constitution before the amendment. Indonesia is the country that adheres to the theory of popular sovereignty. This can be seen in the preamble to the 1945 Constitution, which reads the composition of the Republic of Indonesia, which is sovereign by the people. Second, sovereignty according to the 1945 Constitution after the amendment. The third amendment to the 1945 Constitution of 2001, which changed the formulation of Article 2, Paragraph 2 of the 1945 Constitution, which reads sovereignty is in the hands of the people and carried out according to the Constitution. The next material is types of sovereignty theory. The first one is God's sovereign theory. Adherents of this theory consider state sovereignty as something sacred and absolute, so that all people must submit and obey the king or government in the name and for God. Countries that adhere to this theory, for example, Japan and Ethiopia. Second, king sovereign theory. This theory asserts the highest source of power in the hands of the king. Adherents of this theory view the king as a source of power, not God. Countries that adhere to this theory, for example, Thailand and Brunei Darussalam. Third, state sovereignty theory. In this case, the government is the executor of state power, so every action and policy that applies comes from by and for the country. Fourth, people's sovereignty theory. According to the theory of people's sovereignty, the existence of government is the will of the people who must also carry out their duties in accordance with the aspiration of the people. Countries that adhere to the theory of popular sovereignty are Indonesia, the United States, France, and others. And the last one is theory of sovereignty of law. This theory argues that the law is a source of power for all aspects of life. Both for the people and the state must be subject to the law. Laws are issued by competent institutions that bind all citizens. This theory is adopted by several countries, namely Indonesia, Switzerland, and others. So the conclusion is the first citizenship is a membership that shows the relationship or ties of the state with citizens. Second, constitution is the entire state administration system of a country in the form of a collection of laws and regulations that form and regulate the government of a country. The constitution is not only juridical but also sociological and political. And the last one is sovereignty, is the exclusive right to control an area of government, society, or over oneself. Okay, that's all for our presentation. If there is something missing, we apologize. Thank you for your attention.